What up? Welcome back. This is a commander deck list with the Wandering Minstrel, but it's not just gates and towns. Instead, it's 5-color graveyard lands. What does that mean? It's like every land. It's just every town. And then like, I don't know, some basics. And like your generic command tower or Path of Ancestry. Either way, this deck is just trying to mill a lot of cards and then bring them all back and then just keep going, accumulate enough lands to just Wandering Minstrel for game. Who is Wandering Minstrel? What does he do? He's a 2-mana 1/3. Lands you control enter untapped, which is sick. And the Minstrel's Ballad at the beginning of combat on your turn. If you control 5 or more towns, you make a 2/2 elemental creature token that's all colors. And also you can pay Wooburg +3 to give other creatures +X until end of turn, where X is the number of towns you control. So you just want to put all your towns on the battlefield, and then you just want to make all your creatures big and win the game. And how are we going to do that? I don't know, just a bunch of ways. But yeah, let's go through the cards. Arcane Signet, it's ramp, that's it. Chocobo Racetrack, it's Final Fantasy themed, so it's going to go in the deck. It also has landfall. Whenever a land enters, make a 2/2 bird. With whenever a land you control enters, this token gets +1/+0 until end of turn. I mean, best case scenario, it makes a big bird, or it makes a bird that can become big on your next turn. Worst case scenario, it's just a bunch of 2/2 chompers, which isn't bad. Chromatic Lantern, so all your kind of bad dual lands tap for all 5 colors. Conduit of Worlds, play lands from your graveyard. You can also tap it, choose a non-land permanent in your graveyard, and if you haven't cast a spell this turn, you can cast that spell from your graveyard. If you do, you can't cast additional spells, and you can activate only the sorcery. Crucible of Worlds, just play lands from my graveyard. This is a nice Sacred Lair. I was actually considering getting it, and then I didn't because it was a little too expensive. Exploration Broodship, this is from the new Jund precon and Edge of Eternities. 3+, you may play an additional land on each of your turns, and then 8+, once during each of your turns, you may cast a permanent spell from your graveyard by sacrificing a land in addition to paying its other costs. The sacking land doesn't really matter. And yeah, this just lets us play more lands, which is good. Felwar Stone is ramp. Head Shredder is whenever it attacks mill 2, which is whatever. But whenever one or more land cards are put into your graveyard from your library, put them onto the battlefield tapped. This means if you have a card that can mill a bunch of stuff, every land that you mill just comes back tapped and just is like free value with Head Shredder. You don't have to play them from your grave. Soul Ring is ramp. On the creatures, AC is just a good landfall draw card, and you can play additional land. He's just kind of like a solid card. Aftermath Analyst, you can pay 4 sack him to return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Also when he enters, you mill 3, which is cool, but yeah, he's a mass recursion card. Azusa, just to play more lands each turn, especially when you have like a Crucible of Worlds, you can keep playing your lands from your trash. Clifftop Lookout, I super love this card. It's a 3-mana 1/2 with reach, which means it's a good chump blocker for flyers, and it just ramps you on ETB, which is really nice for any card, whatever land you see from the top of your library first. I think this card is probably a little slept on. Dryad of the Illusion Grove, you can play additional land on each of your turn, and lands are every base land type, in addition to the other types, so they just tap for whatever they want it to. It's like Chromatic Lantern. Eternal Witness, to bring a card back from your graveyard. This could be either a piece that you milled that you didn't want to mill, or just a land or something. Famished World Sire, I put this card in the deck and I kind of fell in love with it. I think this card is crazy. So it's an 8-mana 0/0 with Ward 3, Devour Land 3, which means when it enters, you can sacrifice any number of lands. It enters with 3 times the amount of sacrifice lands on it, or 3 times 1/1 counters for each sacrifice land. So you sack 5 lands, he comes in as a 15/15. And then when he enters, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is this creature's power. Put any number of land cards from among them on the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle, so the rest just got shuffled back in. You can just like play this with 8 lands, cycle 8 lands, look at the top 24, play out 5 or 6 more lands. They're all going to come in untapped because of Wandering Minstrel. You now also have 8 lands in your trash to bring out with, I don't know, Azusa and Graveyard, Crucible World or something. And then he's just a 15/15 with Ward 3 or 24/24 with Ward 3. But yeah, no, I'm like super in love with this card. This card actually just almost makes me want to build like a green stompy deck that just plays a shitload of lands. But I mean, you could just do this in this color instead. Gladiolus Amicitia. I probably butchered that. When it enters, search your library for a land card, put it on the battlefield, tap and shuffle. And then whenever land you control enters, another target creature you control gets +2/+2, gains trample until end of turn. If you have him on board when you're doing a mass recursion thing and you're going to try to go for game with your commander, you can give all your guys trample. He just ramps on ETB and he's a 6 mana 6/6, which isn't hard when you're ramping and doing stuff, so this card is alright. Ice Explorer, this card is probably one of the better cards in the deck. Also from Edge of Eternities, they really push like the graveyard land stuff in some of the green cards, which is cool. You may play an additional land on each of your turn, which is nice. You may play lands from your graveyards and landfall mill a card. So this kind of just works with itself. There's almost a one card engine if you're just milling the right cards, which is really crazy. Ignis Scientia. When it enters the top 6 cards of your library, you may put a land card from among them on the battlefield tapped, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order, and you can pay 3 tap and exile a card from a graveyard. If it's a creature card, you make a food, which is kind of whatever. It's 3 mana ramp 1 on ETB. Keru Goldkeeper, whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard during your turn, make a treasure token. You can also pay 5, exile them, and put 2/1 counters on a flying counter on a target creature, activate only as a sorcery. This is kind of just like generic value when you're bringing lands back or playing cards that bring other cards back. I think this is probably one of the weaker cards and it'll be cut for something else eventually if I build this deck. Kura, the Boundless Sky, Flying Death Touch 4/4. When it dies, you can either search your library for 3 lands, put them into your hand, or you can make an XX Green Spirit where X is the number of lands you control. So it either finds you like towns or something, or you just make a big card. So it's not bad. Loamcrafter Fawn, when it enters, you may discard 1 or more land cards. When you do, return up to that many non-land permanent cards from your graveyard to your hand. So you can almost just cycle all your lands in your hand for better cards in your trash. You could cycle them all and then get a Crucible World, a bunch of other cards, and then just play them all back out with the Crucible Worlds. This is a very good value piece. Lumra, Power and Toughness, each equal to the number of lands. And when he enters, mill forward and return all lands from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. It's one of the Mass Recursion cards. Unfortunately, it's stapled to a kind of expensive card, but yeah. Omnath, Locus of Rage. Landfall, make a 5/5 green elemental creature token, and whenever it or another elemental dies, it deals 3 damage to any target. So yeah, if you're playing out a lot of cards on one turn, you're just going to make a lot of elementals. Ramunap, Excavator, you may play lands from your graveyard, pretty self-explanatory. Urakelpie, whenever this creature or another permanent enters from your graveyard, draw a card. Whenever a player casts a spell from a graveyard, draw a card. You bring a lot of lands back from your graveyard, so this will eventually probably draw you quite a few cards. It also just has Persist, so when it dies it comes back and triggers itself. Rydia, Summon of Mists, Landfall, you can discard a card if you do draw a card. You can also pay X, tap, and return a Saga card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. It gains haste until end of turn, activate only as a sorcery. There's one target I think in this deck that Rydia can hit with this. It's mainly in here for discard a card, draw a card on landfall, because you can just discard the lands and then draw better cards. Satyr Wayfinder, when it enters, reveal top 4 cards to your library. You may put a land card from among them into your hand, put the rest into your graveyard. So this just a good card. Skull Prophet, it's just a mana dork, or it mills 2, which is useful to the deck. This is the only saga in the deck. It's Summon Titan, Chapter 1, mill 5, Chapter 2, return all lands from your graveyard to the battlefield, tapped, which doesn't come in tapped because of your commander. And then until end of turn, another target creature gets +X/+X and trample, works as number of lands you control. So you can make something really, really big after you mill 5 cards, return, 10 plus lands from your trash to the field, and then just make something really, really big. Tanuk, Memorial Ensign, another just really good Edge of Eternities land card. Landfall, deal 1 damage to each opponent. If it's the second time it resolved this turn, draw a card. So it's kind of card draw. Realistically, it's more of a finisher with just deal 1 to each opponent, because just burning everybody at the table will slowly end the game faster. Tatiova, 5 mana 3/3 landfall, gain a life, draw a card. Self-explanatory. I think this goes in like every lands deck. Thalia and the Gitrog monster, for Strike Death Touch, you may play an additional land during your turns. Creatures non-basics your opponent's control enter tapped, and whenever it attacks, sacrifice a creature or land, then draw a card. It's kind of just card advantage. You can sack your lands, which is nice, and it's a little bit of a tax or like stacks thing. Not really. It's an alright card in the deck. Gitrog is just by itself a much better card in the deck. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice them unless you sack land, which is whatever. You may play an additional land on each turn, and whenever one or more lands you control are put into the graveyard from anywhere, i.e. the deck or the board, mainly, draw a card. So this will just draw you a lot of cards once you're doing your cycling to the grave and shenanigans. Necrobloom, 4 mana 2/7. I actually didn't realize it was a 2/7. That's, I don't know, that's like Hearthstone card stats. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, make a 0/1 green plant creature token. If you control 7 or more lands with different names, make a 2/2 black zombie creature token instead. It's kind of just Field of the Dead. Also, lands have Dredge too, so you can mill cards to get lands back, and hopefully you're milling those more lands. Timeless Witness is Eternal Witness, but it has Eternalize, which means you can play from your trash. Town Greeter will just ramp you ETB, mill 4, put a land from among them into your hand, and then if it was a town, you gain 2 life. Usually you want to try and hit a town with this just because you want towns on board. But yeah, it's mill and then add to hand. It's Seder Wayfinder, but with towns. World Shaper, 4 mana 3/3. When it attacks, you may mill 3, and then when it dies, put all land cards from your graveyard on the battlefield tapped, which again, not tapped. But yeah, there's just mass recursion for lands. Unfortunately, it is tied to dying, and unlike Aftermath Analyst, you can't personally trigger it, but that's fine. You just chump with it. Abundance, if you draw, you can choose land or non-land. You reveal cards from top until you get a card of that type. Put that card into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This can just filter you if you're getting flooded or not flooded. I like this card. Garruk's Uprising, creatures you control have trample, and when it enters, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, draw a card. And whenever a creature you control with power 4 or greater enters, draw a card. Those two aren't great, but the creatures you control have trample, just for a finisher, I really, really like. Greenhouse and Rickety Gazebo. Greenhouse says your lands tap for any color. Rickety Gazebo's mill 4, add 2 permanents from among them to your hand. So this is just like Rickety Gazebo's a good effect, and then Greenhouse is Chromatic Lantern, which is nice. Mirari's Wake, creatures get +1/+1. Whenever you tap a land for mana, add a mana of any type that land produced. It's a mana doubler. It just helps to make even more Wandering Minstrel activations, or if you're ever low on mana in the mid game because you, I don't know, sacked with your World Shire and then you didn't see the right amount of lands. Walking Closet and Forgotten Cellar. Walking Closet says you may play lands from your graveyard. It's Crucible Worlds. Then Forgotten Cellar, you can pay 5, unlock the sword, cast a spell from your graveyard this turn, and if a card would put into a graveyard from anywhere this turn, exile it instead. So it's almost just like, what is it, Yawgmoth's Will? I think the card is, because you can just cast spells from your graveyard this turn. Dreams of Laguna, instant. Surveil and draw a card. You can mill land, draw a card, and it has flashback, which is nice. Some of the cards in here probably aren't that optimal, but it's like, it's Final Fantasy, it's in the Final Fantasy deck. Grapple with the Past, 2 mana, mill 3, you may return a creature or land card from your graveyard to your hand. Notably, this is any creature or land. I know a lot of the mill effects say among the milled cards you have to pick from, but this one, you can just pick anything. Grizzly Savage, 2 mana, real top 5, put a creature or land into your hand, put the rest in your graveyard. I was going to say add the rest to your graveyard because it feels like your graveyard is kind of your second hand. Growth Spiral, draw a card, put a land from your hand on the battlefield. It's ramp. Laughing Mad, discard a card, draw 2. It's mainly in here because it has flashback, so it's better than the other ones if you mill it. Planar Genesis, look at top 4, put a land into your hand, or onto the battlefield tapped, and then if you don't, put a card from among them into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. I think this card is also just like probably a staple in any deck that is green and blue, among other colors as well. Precious Wanderings, 3 mana, search your library for basic land or a town. Put on the battlefield. When you put a town this way, put a 1/1 counter on a creature control. Stroke of Midnight, 3 mana, destroy a non-land permanent. They make a 1/1 white human. I kind of like this card more than Beast Within and Generous Gift, because at least in the pods I play in, there's really not many lands that you want to hit that are screwing people over. I mean, maybe in like bracket 4 when you're getting to like, I don't know, Windgrace, Glacial Chasm loops. But before that, I think Stroke of Midnight is probably just the better card. I'm going to ignore the lands for now. They're pretty uninteresting. Onto the Planeswalkers though, we have Lord Windgrace. You can discard a card, then draw a card. If you discarded a land, you draw an additional card, which you typically want to do. You can also -3 return 2 lands from your graveyard to the battlefield, or you can -11 destroy 6 target non-land permanents, make 6 2/2 Cat Warriors with Forest Walk. The -11 doesn't really seem playable in this deck, but the +2 to draw 2 and the -3 to return 2 lands is pretty good. Nissa of Shadowed Bows, I think it's Bows. Landfall, put a loyalty counter on Nissa, which is mainly why it's in the deck. You can +1 to untap a land, and you can have it become a 3/3 elemental with haste and menace. And you can -5 put a creature card with mana value less than or equal to the number of lands you control onto the battlefield from your hand or graveyard with 2/1/1 counters on it. So it's kind of a reanimation target when you have a lot of token or like landfall triggers. I think this card is pretty good, yeah. Wrenn and Realmbreaker, lands have tap for add 1 mana of any color, which is just like a nice passive effect. As +1, make a land into a 3/3 elemental with vigilance, hexproof, and haste until end of turn, kind of whatever. -2, mill 3, put a permanent card from among them into your hand, which is nice. And then -7, you get an emblem with you may play lands, cast permanent spells from your graveyard, which is good, but it's probably never going to happen. I think every time I've played this card in testing, I've just done the mill 3, add a card from among the mill to my hand twice, and then it dies. The +1 to make a land into a creature is kind of whatever. Disorienting choice for sorceries now. For each opponent, choose a target artifact or enchantment that player controls. For each permanent chosen this way, its controller may exile it. If one or more of the chosen permanents are still on the battlefield, you search your library for that up to that many land cards, put them on the battlefield, tapped, then shuffle. TLDR, you choose 3 artifacts or enchantments your opponents control. If they don't get rid of them, you ramp that many lands. So none of them get rid of them. You get 3 of any land from your deck, which is nice because we're not running a lot of basics. Eerie Ultimatum will just bring everything back from your graveyard. Yeah, there's just Master Recursion later on in the game. If you hit this later on, you get like, I don't know, 5 to 10 lands, 5+ creatures, maybe an enchantment, a few artifacts. Really, really good. I mean, it's 7 mana, but you're playing like a landfall land deck, so that's not too hard to hit. Explore, you may play an additional land discard this turn, draw a card. Just a good generic card. Life from the Loam, 2 mana, return 3 target land cards from your graveyard to your hand, and it has Dredge 3, which is nice, so you can just keep bringing it back and milling more lands. Reach the Horizon, 4 mana, search your library for 2 basics or towns, put them onto the battlefield tapped and shuffle, but not really tapped. Yeah, it's just town ramp, because you want to be able to hit 5 towns relatively quickly, so you have the chump blocker with your commander every turn. Resentful Revelation, 2 mana, look at top 3, put 1 in your hand, the rest in your graveyard. And it has flashback. I think it's just a good generic kind of filter card in the deck, and it can set up your graveyard in your hands. Ruthless Ultimatum, destroy all non-land permanents your opponents control. It's a one-sided board wipe, and with the amount of mana we make, the 7 cost isn't really that bad. Sylvan Scrying, search your library for land card, reveal it, put in your hand, and then shuffle. I don't actually think this card is as good as I want it to be. You're usually just getting a town, and you're like, ooh, I have a town. And maybe it's a town of a specific color because you don't have your land tap for any color cards. But yeah, I think this card's a little weak. Probably would be better to just play more generic ramp. Travel the Overworld, this is kind of just 2 mana, draw 4 because it has affinity for towns. I think I've played it for 4 and it still feels not bad. 4 mana, draw 4. And then Victimize, because you're milling a lot of cards, you can just sack a token that you make with your commander to bring back 2 bombs from your graveyard, which is awesome. Alright, I'll quickly go through the lands. There's really nothing, it's just all of the towns, and then World Tree. As long as you have 6 or more lands, they add 1 mana of any color. And then, yeah, it's just like every town. Reliquary Tower, in case you're drawing a lot, which can happen. A Plains, a Mountain, like some basics. The Path of Ancestry, obviously. Exotic Orchard, Command Tower, the generic good stuff when you're playing more than a few colors. And then, yeah, on the maybe board, which is actually almost as expensive as the main deck, and there's a few reasons why. Course of Crewfix, not one of them, but you may play with top card of your library revealed. You may play top card of your library if it's a land, and whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, gain 1 life. I don't think this deck runs enough lands for the you may play lands from top of your library, and there's not enough like you may play an additional land card this turn cards in the deck. So yeah, I don't think it's very good in the deck, but you could tool it and it probably wouldn't be bad. Expedition Map, it finds a specific land, but like who cares? I was just saying with the other one. Exsanguinate, if you just have a lot of mana, just exsanguinate for game. I don't know. Like you could theoretically if there's no counter spell, but yeah, that's why it's in the sideboard. It's kind of a weird win con. Field of the Dead, this card is cracked in the deck. I'd probably play Expedition Map if Field of the Dead was also in the deck, because yeah, this card is like super cracked. We're playing almost one of every land, and I think we have like 4 forests, and that's it. But it's a game changer. It's really expensive. I just didn't want to put in the deck and be like, oh yeah, you gotta play this for the deck to work, because you really don't. Huge on Crab, Landfall, you could just mill yourself for 3, which I don't think is bad, but I'm not sure how reliable it is to see the cards that will bring back cards from your lands when you're milling half your deck. Ripples of Undeath, this card is Giga Broken. Also, it went down, so if you want to buy it, now's probably a good time, because I think this card used to be like $10. At the beginning of your pre-combat main, mill 3, then if you pay 1 mana and 3 life, you can put a card among the milled cards into your hand. It just sets up your graveyard, and it's like an additional draw for 1 mana every turn. I don't think it's a bad card, but I was like, it feels a little too like, yeah, I'm just going to put this in the deck and ignore it. So I didn't put it in. Escape Shift, probably the other most expensive card in the deck. I think this is actually the most, it's more than Field of the Dead. Sacrifice any number of lands, search your library for that many land cards, put them into play tapped, then shuffle your library. Obviously with your commander, you can tap all your lands first and then scape shift them into untapped lands, which is even wilder. This card is like, again, like Field of the Dead, you put this in, if you have it, it's an auto include. It makes the deck way better, especially if you see the card. But yeah, obviously not required to be played. And then Splendid Reclamation, return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. I just thought I had enough of the effects for it. And realistically, like, a lot of the time there's like maybe 5 to 10 lands, so this card's not that crazy. Starting Town, this card keeps going up in price. I was going to buy one at like $15 and I didn't, and now I feel bad about it. Yeah, it's Mana Confluence. But yeah, enters tap if your first, unless it's your first, second, or third turn, which, whatever. I would play it. It's a town deck. You put the town in the town deck. I just didn't want to put it in because I'm like $26. And then Sylvan Safekeeper, sack land, give a creature a Shroud. I don't think there are really like crazy creature targets in this deck. Maybe there are, and I just like, I'm naive about it. But yeah, this card is definitely really good in this deck. There's probably a few cards that can be swapped out for it. And then Nyx Bloom Ancient, anything that makes your land tap for more mana. If you need more mana, play more mana. I don't know, Nyx Bloom Ancient. Mana Reflections, I mean, Mariah's, whatever it's called, is in the deck, the enchantment. But that also gives your creatures +1/+1. And then Urban Evolution, draw 3, play an additional land. For 5 mana, I was like, whatever, I don't know. There's probably better cards. Because especially if you just whiff on the draws. But yeah, that's the deck. This one took a few weeks to actually figure out, because I haven't really made like, I haven't ever looked at like graveyard lands, and I think the ratios in this deck were a little off originally. So I'm glad with how it's turned out. I've play tested it quite a bit, and it seems kind of good. But not too good. Good enough. Probably bracket 3. But yeah. I guess it could be bracket 2. Who knows? I've one non-land. Oh. Sorry, this is a tangent that I would be like, what the hell? Alright, whatever. The video's over. I'll see you next week. No video last week because it was a holiday, and then I went to go play locals at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which is when I usually record. But yeah. Alright, bye-bye.